like me, Covey? What's the racket?
What?
The racket, Covey. The row, the old salt water.
When I got asked to adapt Oliver Twist, I made an absolute decision that I would not watch or look at any other film or television adaptation or listen to any radio adaptation. All I would do is read the novel, because otherwise you end up adapting somebody else's vision, and it's got to be your response to the novel.
Jack Hawkins is me giving. I'm best known round these parts as the Artful Dodger. You can call me Dodge.
Oliver Twist.
There are lots of things in Oliver Twist which frustrated me to dementia, and I could have cheerfully thrown the book through the window, and then at the same time, or on the same page or the next page, he'd hit you with something which was pure master writer, hit you with a detail between the eyes which made you go, oh my God. When you're going to adapt a novel, you read it. I read it very, very quickly, and when you read something very, very quickly, images will jump out and park themselves in your brain. And then I read it very, very slowly. And then I read it again while taking sort of time for things to sink in. And then I close it and I put it to one side. And I kind of fill up with the story that I want to tell, because there's always some real difficulties, like how do you fit a sort of 700-page novel into 3 hours of television? What I tend to do is there's stuff I learned from EastEnders, which is that you boil that story down into a sentence. Say, for example, the story of Oliver Twist is the story of a homeless orphan who comes home to his family. One of the main challenges when you're adapting a novel for the screen is in the very, very early part of planning and of deciding what the story is about. What is this story about? And what is the driving urgency to tell the stories? All stories have to have urgency. There's a lot more that affects adaptation than just me, and sometimes it's budget. It's what can be afforded and what can't be, what just can't be afforded because of the restrictions on budget. If you could just do the book as it was laid out and go, right, we're going to go over here, over there, and over there, you'd have a budget of millions of quid. The BBC would be completely bankrupt, and you wouldn't necessarily have a good piece of TV at the end of it. So all of the constrictions, all of the restraints, and all of the things where you go, we can't do that, but look, we can do this. My advice to anybody thinking about becoming a writer is write. Write. Do it all the time. Sit down and write. Don't worry about who's looking over your shoulder. Don't worry about who's going to read it. Write for yourself. Find out what your voice is and keep doing it. You can think about becoming a writer, you can think about becoming an Olympic swimmer, you can think about doing all sorts of things. The bottom line is, if you're going to do it, you have to do it. Learn by doing. Expect to make mistakes, expect to fail, expect to look at something that you've written and go, oh my God, it actually makes me feel physically sick, and want to set fire to it. Write. Obviously Dickens is, and other authors, people like Jane Austen, the Brontes, and all those very popular authors, Thomas Hardy, who keep being adapted because they're classic novels, because they're old favourites, and because they're part of the school's curriculum. They are out of copyright, which means that you don't have to pay an author for the rights to their novel. If you're going to adapt a contemporary piece of work, you buy the rights. Copyright is important because it means I get paid. And it means that if I write an original piece of work, and it is then copyrighted to me, and it is my intellectual property, which means that if anybody attempts to plagiarise it or use it without my permission or use it without paying for the use of it, they can be made to pay for it through the courts.